So as you know, I'm Grant Rice. I wanted just to acknowledge some of the folks that I've noticed in the room tonight, that there's some people that were former members of the Environmental Advisory Committee. Bob Campbell, I saw Dr. Roy Strang, and I saw Al Schultz back there somewhere. And there may be more, but I want to acknowledge the hard work that they've done in protecting lands like this over the years. And of course, the folks at the fish hatchery. So just wanted to acknowledge that they are here, and they are people that have done a lot of work on your behalf as Surrey citizens. So I'm here to talk about food security, and I'm glad that Joanne brought up the issue of the fish habitat. And it is an important food source, so I won't dwell on that. But one of the things that you can take home with you is that by making sure that this land is protected and the agricultural use is compatible with the river, that we can grow food and we can protect fish habitat at the same time. So what do I do with this? Click. Oh, that.
That one there.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so this is a food self-sufficiency report for BC. One of the things that they did this huge report in 2006, and there's been updates over the years. This was done by the Center, the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, a group that's often been targeted as left-wing because they tell it like it is. So this group actually looked at what we grow and what we export and what we would be able to be self-sufficient in if we didn't export. So the lines on the blue lines are our current system as of 2010, and if we didn't export, the bar goes up that high. So we are not self-sufficient in any kind of food that we grow, except for possibly blueberries and some and some supply managed products like dairy. So just Tuesday, the Ministry of Agriculture came out with this report, and what it is, it's a strategic plan for the next 5 years up to 2020. And in that plan, they've identified one thing, and I don't know if you can read it, but they've identified that we need to put another 91,000 hectares of land into production within the next 5 years. So we are faced, though, with many challenges, and some of these are extreme weather conditions, extreme weather events that are occurring because of global climate change. I went to a march last Sunday. 2,000 people were there to try and raise awareness about climate change, and I think it's resonating now. I think that in Paris we may see some positive change, but it's actions at this level, at the community, that can make those changes. So the picture on the lower left, Calgary has experienced 2 100-year floods in the last decade. And on the upper right, we all know about the wildfires that are happening throughout, not just in BC, but all down the coast. The other part of the problem is that in California, they've had a 5-year drought, and it continues. Even though they get these massive floods every fall now, the land will not absorb that water and recharge the aquifers, so it just washes out to the ocean. So California is under enormous threat. And why is that important to us? Well, because we get a lot of our food from California. Uh-oh, what happened to this? There were names in percent. That's unfortunate. Anyways, but that large green pie is California. That's how much fruit and vegetables we import from the world, and we import in Canada $3.8 billion worth of food from California. That little pie there is $508 million just in fruits and vegetables that we import into BC alone. So I went to a meeting the other day on Tuesday night, and some folks from the Peace River Valley were down talking about what's happening to their land in the ALR, how it's being excluded. The speakers were Harold Steeves, who was one of the fathers of the Agricultural Land Reserve. The other fellow was Richard Bullock. He's just been fired, or he was fired in the spring, as the chair of the Agricultural Land Commission. There was a bill passed by the province, Bill 24, in the spring, that has made massive changes to the way the Agricultural Land Commission makes its rulings. So the bottom line is that our land is under threat. What we think is protected agricultural land is under threat. That one that you can't read on the left, that is an actual exclusion of land that occurred on November 13th. Probably, has anybody heard about this? I know Nicole has, because she was at the Agriculture Advisory Committee meeting on Thursday morning, but that has been excluded at the corner of 10th, Highway 10 and 168. So there's 15 acres on that corner that the Agricultural Land Commission has just allowed to be excluded. All they have to do is submit a drainage study, and then that land will be excluded. And then the ball is back in the city's court as to what they're going to allow to happen there. So we are all in the comfort level that we think that the Agricultural Land Reserve is there forever, and it's there to protect our food security, but this is no longer the case. So the bottom line then, what I'm saying is that the agricultural land that is in this neighborhood, that is not in the ALR, it makes it all that much more important that we protect it and keep it in production. All right, where are you going? So I want to bring it to the metro level. So at Metro Vancouver, we have what's called an urban containment boundary. And if you look at the map, that little circle is this area, this special study area where this property is involved. So what we have now is that because it's been designated a special study area, it doesn't trigger the same type of exclusion that would have happened if it was just left in the rural zone. So this was changed between 2011 and 2013. So now we are faced with, instead of having, okay. So anyways, from that regional strategy, there's certain things that they say, protect rural land, and that's inside and outside. They're not talking about just ALR, they're talking about protecting rural land outside the containment boundary. And the role of municipalities is to make sure that land is protected, either inside or outside. So this is what I was saying was a type 3 minor amendment. All it takes is 50% plus one of the Metro Vancouver directors. So there's about 130 odd directors, but it's all weighted. So a city with a large population, like Surrey and Vancouver, can carry a vote on their own. And this graph, which it worked, shows how powerful the weighted votes are from just two cities. So between Vancouver, Surrey, and Burnaby, they can pass an amendment and have this land excluded from the urban containment boundary. In the past, it used to take a 2/3 vote, and this is I think this is very significant because I was very hopeful when I started looking at what we could do of finding a way of stopping this if it goes through the Surrey level, stopping it at the metro level. But when I found out that it was only a type 2 amendment, it was a little distressing to me. So there's also at the metro level a regional food system strategy, which goes through 5 goals and 21 actions to those goals. And it's really important that the cities they've all signed on to it. They're all part of it. But individual cities make their own action plans as to how they're going to tackle that. And some of the things that they are really strong on is making sure that food is grown locally. So Surrey farmland, needless to say, needs protection. I think it needs our help. This is just a photograph in, I think it's around the Colebrook Road area that I took a while back when I was presenting to the Ag Committee about why we need to have house-size caps. It didn't go over though, didn't work. This is a land use inventory that was done throughout Metro Vancouver and in the Surrey proper. This land use inventory basically said we're utilizing just under 50% of our agricultural land right now that's in the ALR. And they also surveyed another 1,388 hectares outside the ALR to look at what's being done there, what's being grown, is it forage, is it vegetables? So they have done an extensive survey. And one of the things that they found is that, we keep on bragging about, well, we've got a third of our city is agricultural land reserve. But the problem is a quarter of that we can't use. It's either under roads or it's under golf courses or it's in areas where we just can't grow food. It's like on a steep slope or heavily treed. So there's a lot of potential still, but I think one of the things is that we have to realize that the potential for growing food is right here in the Hazelmere Valley, and it's being grown. There's organic growers. I don't know, is Natty King here today? Great vegetables. A friend of mine leased some land off of a landowner, ran a farm down here for a couple of years. This is excellent growing food. So Surrey's OCP, again, I'm going to flash up some documents for you here, because what I'm seeing is that we have great policy, but we don't have great action. We don't have strategies to put these policies into action, and when we do, we don't follow through on those actions. So we have a Surrey, our OCP, which encourages the continued use of farm inside and outside. I want to keep stressing that point, that this is outside the ALR where we're talking about, but it is productive farmland, and it should stay that way. In the OCP draft, that happened before the special study area was identified. So this is just less than 2 years ago. That area that we're talking about was still designated as rural agriculture land. So that is a really recent change. The other thing that we look at is the sustainability charter. I'm sure there's many people in this room that I know have been involved in that over the years. The drafting of it and some of the indicators and targets that we've talked about over the years, been involved as citizen volunteers. And the thing that struck me was, this is the 2015 update for year-end 2014. The city aims to prevent a net loss of land and food production. So how are we going to do that? Where's the actions to make that happen? This is another city document that talks about agriculture. Agriculture enhancement and protection strategy talks about keeping the land base, maintaining the base, investing in agriculture, investing in farmers. Come on, you can do it. So this is where we get to the crunch. It's policy versus politics. So my questions are, so these are for us to just chew on. With policy on our side, what's next? Can we count on 5 out of 9 council members siding with us on this issue? Can we count on 50% plus 1 Metro Vancouver board members siding with us on this issue? How do we engage the foodies and environmentalists throughout the region? So if this comes to the Metro level, if Surrey says, yes, we're going ahead with this on one of those squeaky 5-4 votes, and it goes through third reading, and it's a done deal, then what's our next step? Do we go to the wider community and broadcast throughout the Metro region? This is an important area for food security. The fish hatchery, the health of a fish that we have in our region, the health of our farming that we have in our region, these are important issues. So how do we stop the madness? And I have a couple of quotes here that I was at the Agriculture Food Security Advisory Committee, it's a mouthful, on Thursday morning, and this subject of this truck parking came up. One of the members, Barb Seed, she brought the issue up to the committee. And the chair, who is Mike Starchuk, I heard he's here, Mike. A couple of quotes, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
I have no desire to allow something to be built that has an adverse effect on the environment. And the other one is, I have no interest in doing anything that will impact the Little Campbell River or the aquifer. So there's a strong statement, I feel, from a Surrey councillor. So I want to hear that same statement from 4 more.